We are. I guess we're nearing a console launch.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly,
Allegedly.
rumored. The Switch successor is going to come out sometime in the near future. So of course we're gonna take a look back at something that consoles launch with, and that is video games. And
Usually.
we usually, yes, they have a specific lineup of games they launch with, and we're gonna take a look at most of the major launch lineups that have come out in history, and pit them against each other and see who had the best launch lineup for a video game console.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Ladium.
Howdy.
This is episode 402, and yes, we're going to rank these launch lineups. It's been a while since we've done a ranking,
Mm-hmm.
so why not pull it out of the hat and do something for this?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start with like the NES Master System era, and like just
Yeah.
kind
I
of
was gonna
forget that the
recommend
Atari
that.
stuff and the ColecoVision and all that stuff, because that's, I mean,
It gets
not
messy.
not great either.
Yeah. Like it's never gonna win. So
No.
sorry, Atari and Coleco and all y'all y'all paved the way, but y'all scrubs.
Yeah. This is an alphabetical order by company, so
Ooh.
which means we're starting off with the Microsoft Xbox. I know it doesn't sound right, but that's just how it is. So the
Okay.
Xbox. This was Microsoft's, of course, first foray into video games by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It launched on November 15th, 2001 in North America. We're gonna go with North American launch lineups, by the way, because that just makes sense.
Makes sense for us.
Here's what they launched with. I mean, this is gonna be your number one immediately, so not a whole lot of debate here. But Air Force Delta Storm,
Oh,
Arctic Thunder, Cell Damage, Dead or Alive 3, Fusion Frenzy, that's Bill Gates' favorite game, Halo Combat Evolved, Mad Dash Racing, NFL Fever 2002, Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, Project Gotham Racing, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X. I mean, that's not a bad lineup
it's not a bad lineup.
for a launch lineup, per se. I mean, you got Halo right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Halo was doing some heavy lifting there.
Yeah. Oddworld's, very well regarded. Project Gotham Racing, of course, became a well-known series for Xbox. The Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 re-release for Xbox. I mean, it's a re-release, of course, but like those are two
Still.
very good games. So
Yep. Brother and I had DOA 3.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not a terrible launch lineup for Microsoft's first foray into the console market.
Probably their best one.
Well, they followed it up with the Xbox 360, which
Hit
was
me.
a console. It came out on November 22nd, 2005 in North America. It launched alongside Amped 3, Call of Duty 2, Condemned Criminal Origins, FIFA 06, Gun,
Gun.
Cameo Elements of Power, Madden NFL 06, NBA 2K6, NBA Live 06, Need for Speed Most Wanted, NHL 2K6, Perfect Dark Zero, Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, Project Gotham Racing 3, Quake 4, Ridge Racer 6, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 06, and Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. So a lot of multi-console games. I remember, though, a lot of these sports games that came out on the 360, like their first iteration on this console generation, were not good. They were very bare bones, like versions of those games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people would have played them, obviously, because like new graphics, but also they were very easy 1,000-point achievements. So,
Okay.
I feel like the only things that really stand out on here is like Perfect Dark Zero obviously does,
Which is not good.
which isn't that good. Project Gotham Racing 3 is on here. I remember people liking that. That's kind of it. Quake 4 is on here, but I think the original Xbox, almost said the Xbox One, but that's nope. That's coming up
Nope.
here in a
That's a
few
different
short
thing.
seconds.
That's a
I
different
think
thing.
the
I think the
the
original
OG,
Xbox is still one.
which is wild because like obviously the 360 is going to go on to have a
Insane catalog.
insane catalog, a monumentous run. But yeah, this launch lineup isn't the best. But speaking of, here's the Microsoft Xbox One launching 8 years after the launch of the 360 on November 22nd, 2013. It launched with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Battlefield 4, Call of Duty Ghosts, Crimson Dragon, Dead Rising 3, FIFA 14, Fighter Within, Forza Motorsport 5, Just Dance 2014, Killer Instinct, Lego Marvel Superheroes, Loco Cycle, Madden NFL 25, not to be confused with Madden NFL 25, which is out now, NBA 2K14, NBA Live 14, Need for Speed Rivals, Power Star Golf, Rise Son of Rome, Skylanders Swap Force, Zoo Tycoon, and Zumba Fitness World Party.
Not the Zumba.
Again, a lot of just stuff that's going to come out elsewhere, which a lot of this is going to be on the PlayStation 4 launch lineup. We will when we get to that. I mean, a lot of like the console exclusive stuff was like Dead Rising 3, which again a lot of people kind of was indifferent on.
Yeah, it was my least favorite of the Dead Rising games.
I think Crimson Dragon was an exclusive. Rise, I think, was for a bit, and that was not what people wanted. Forza 5, I think, is okay. I think people like Zoo Tycoon, which that's not saying a whole lot. The sports games are fine. They're again they're going to be a little bit more bare bones, but I think they're better iterations than they were for the 360. But a lot of these also games were coming out on the 360 as well. So like Assassin's Creed 4 is on the 360, Battlefield 4 is on the 360, Call of Duty Ghosts is on the 360, FIFA's on the 360, the sports games are on the 360. The Lego game's probably on the 360. Need for Speed's on the 360. Skylanders was on the 360. Just Dance is on the 360. Killer Instinct is a fine game. So
it's a great game.
I'm trying to work. So obviously it's not as good as the Xbox, but is it worse than the 360? I don't think so, because like obviously some of this third-party stuff is good.
Right.
It's just not like gonna blow you away, or it's not stuff that is just exclusive to this console for a little bit, because this and the PS4 came out right around the same time.
Right.
I would probably say this is better than the 360.
I would say it's better than the 360. Yeah, I would agree with you.
X-Bone.
X-Bone.
My instinct. So yeah, and then finally we have the Microsoft Xbox Series X and S, which came out on November 10th, 2020.
Oof.
Kind of a similar situation here. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Destiny 2, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Fortnite, I guess that counts, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, NBA 2K21, Observer System Redux, Watch Dogs Legion, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. I mean, those are good games on this list. They are games that some of these games, well, I guess most of these games that are good on here, you can find elsewhere. But if you were picking this console up and you hadn't played, Destiny 2 or Devil May Cry 5 or Yakuza, Dirt 5's good as well. Like, it has some good rumble tech in it. Like, this is a solid lineup, honestly. Is it okay? I would say it's better than the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Is it better than the Xbox? I mean, Xbox has Halo to start off with. With Halo, I think sometimes you just need one game.
And I mean, that's an iconic game.
Yeah. So I think probably it's under Xbox.
And I think the problem is that a lot of the ones that are like banging games for the Series X and S, like they're not exclusive. Like,
yeah, the only exclusives here are like the Gears games.
Right. So like you can find them elsewhere. So that makes it a little bit harder for me to be like, yes, you're great. Because I mean, those are some great games, but like,
yeah. But I think in terms of like if you compare that to like what those kinds of games were offered on the Xbox One and the 360, this is a much better lineup.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we're going to move past the TurboGrafx 16 to the Nintendo 3DS.
Whoa, 3DS
So a lot of
went on
Nintendo
to
stuff,
be
obviously.
a banger
Yeah.
console eventually, but
Yes. This came out on March 27th, 2011 in North America, and it launched with the following games: Pilot Wings Resort, Steel Diver, Nintendogs Plus Cats, Super Street Fighter 4 3D, The Sims 3, Madden NFL Football, Pro Evo Soccer 2011 3D, Lego Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars, Ridge Racer 3D, Super Monkey Ball 3D, Bust a Move Universe, Samurai Warriors Chronicles, Asphalt 3D, Combat of Giants Dinosaurs 3, Rayman 3D, and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Shadow Wars. This is a bad launch lineup.
terrible.
A lot of it is obviously, trying to bank off the idea of, the 3DS being the 3D gimmick and everything, but, ooh, boy.
It is a rough launch.
There's just not a whole lot here that, screams, man, I gotta pick one of these up at launch. There's no Mario. None of the big Nintendo properties are here. It's just, Pilot Wings and Nintendogs, then everything else is, third-party stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I eventually got it when the Kid Icarus game came out.
Mm-hmm.
But at launch, I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. I think
It's
this
rough.
moves to the bottom of the list.
I would agree with you entirely. It's a rough launch.
All right.
Which is, again, wild because that console goes on to be insane.
Yeah. Up next, we have the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
Which launched in North America on September 29th, 1996. And it launched with 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Pilot Wings 64 and Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, some of these these earlier consoles are going to have much lighter launch lineups, but some of them are just going to have very heavy hitters that you got to take into account here. Pilot Wings 64 is, whatever. And despite what I think about Super Mario 64, it is one of the most iconic video games of all time.
Agree. And it was so
revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, revolutionary for the time. It showed off oh my God, look what this console can do. Look what Mario can do. This isn't a Mario game that we've had ever.
Yeah.
It was bonkers.
Yeah, I think obviously this will go to the number 1 spot. In the same way, I think, the Xbox had Halo, which revolutionized what you could do with a first-person shooter on consoles. Here's Super Mario 64 revolutionizing what you can do with a platformer game in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not that good, let's be real.
Hey!
Anyways, let's move on to the Nintendo DS, which launched on November 21st, 2004 in North America. It launched with Asphalt Urban GT, Feel the Magic XYXX, Madden NFL 2005, Mr. Driller Drill Spirits, Ping Pals, Ridge Racer DS, Spider-Man 2, Sprung, Metroid Prime Hunter's First Hunt, which was a demo pack-in, Super Mario 64 DS, The Herbs, Sims in the City, and Tiger Woods PGA Tour. Again, not a good launch lineup here.
Nope.
You got Super Mario 64 DS, which...
Not good.
Obviously not as regarded as Super Mario 64, but at least you have a Mario game on your launch lineup.
That's better than the 3DS then.
Yes. Everything else, again, is just a lot of third-party stuff that they're just, porting things to a handheld just to try and, get that money. But yeah, I think outside of Mario, there's not a whole lot here.
Right.
But I think, like you said, it's better than the 3DS. Is it better than the 360? Maybe because it has a Mario game?
Maybe because it has a Mario game. 360 didn't even really have anything
but I don't think it's as good as the Xbox One because that has just more variety of
absolutely
stuff.
Not.
DS. All right. After that, we have the Nintendo Entertainment System.
That one.
Yes. This came out, of course, on October 18th, 1985 in North America. A bigger launch lineup than any of the previous Nintendo stuff we've seen so far. It launched with 10-Yard Fight, Balloon Fight, Baseball, Clue Clue Land, Donkey Kong Jr. Math, Duck Hunt, which was a pack-in, Excite Bike, Golf, Gyromite, which was a pack-in, Hogan's Alley, Ice Climber, Kung Fu, Mock Rider, Pinball, Stack Up, Super Mario Brothers, which again is a pack-in, Tennis, Wild Gunman, and Wrecking Crew. I mean, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, that. I mean, that entire lineup, like, there are a few games of that I'm just like, eh.
Yeah,
But like,
it's a solid lineup, especially
it's a
when
solid lineup.
you got Mario Brothers,
Duck
you got
Hunt,
Duck Hunt, Excite Bike.
hell
I mean,
yeah,
like golf is still like as far as like the basic sports games was good.
yeah.
Um,
You got like Balloon Fight,
hmm
you got Ice Climbers, like you got some really iconic stuff there.
yeah, this is a pretty good launch lineup, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I would put that at #1 at the
Yeah,
moment.
I mean, obviously the N64 has Mario 64, but this obviously has Super Mario Brothers and then a bunch of other stuff. While the N64 just had Pilot
Mario.
Wings.
Yeah, like Mario and Pilot Wings, Mario and a bunch of other stuff. Again, you do have the revolutionary sense of this Mario game, though, like that. It changed the game.
Yes. Up next we have the Game Boy.
The Game Boy. Hey, that's you! Your birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah,
By the time
everyone.
this goes out, he'll be 3.
Yeah, everyone, make sure you say Happy Birthday to Game Boy.
My Game Boy, not the
Yes,
Nintendo Game
'cause
Boy.
that's already passed.
Yes.
This launched in North America in August of 1989, and it launched with 5 games:
5.
Alleyway, Baseball, Super Mario Land, Tennis, and the pack-in of Tetris.
Ooh.
Super Mario Land's good.
Yes.
I mean, it's not as great as Super Mario Brothers or any of the other Mario games that had come out by that point. Game Boy Tetris is another iconic video game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was Game Boy Tetris in and of itself proved to people like, hey, this handheld thing can really work.
Yeah.
Not that Land didn't, because people were also excited, like, wow, we could play a Mario game on the go. That's exciting. But like Tetris was kind of like a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like middle-aged ladies played it.
I mean, again, iconic games here, Mario Land, Tetris, but I think the thing that holds it back a smidge
Mm-hmm.
is that it just has 5 games and the rest of them aren't as good.
Right.
So I think this slots in between the 64 and NES.
Okay, I was gonna say 64 over it, but I can accept your decision as well.
I think if the 64 had more games,
Okay, yeah, more than 2.
yeah.
You mean Pilot Wings doesn't count as a very good game?
I mean, it does, but again, it's just 2 video
Yes.
games.
No, it's only 2. I get it.
Moving on, we have the Game Boy Advance, which obviously is not how this worked chronologically, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
This launched in North America on June 11th, 2001, and it launched with the following titles: Army Men Advance, Castlevania Circle of the Moon,
Okay.
Choo Choo Rocket, Earthworm Jim, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Fire Pro Wrestling, GT Advanced Championship Wrestling, Iridion 3D, Konami Crazy Racers, Namco Museum, Pinobi Wings of Adventure, Pitfall of the Mayan Adventure, Rayman Advance, Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2, Super Dodgeball Advance, Super Mario Advance, which I believe is just Super Mario Bros. 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Kind of lackluster
Yeah.
lineup here. I mean, I like that Castlevania game. It is probably the worst of the GBA games, but like it was a good portable Castlevania game.
Mm-hmm.
That Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 GBA game is a fairly well-regarded port of the game. I mean, you do have a Mario game on here technically,
Technically.
even if it is just Super Mario Bros. 2. There's an F-Zero game.
You know, it's devastating to me that Earthworm Jim has forever been tainted for me because that guy sucks.
Yeah.
Because I liked that game.
I think this would slot in above the DS, maybe.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
buy that.
Okay.
I could buy that.
Nintendo Game Boy Advance.
That's
Okay.
gonna be you in a few years, buddy.
The Game Boy Color
Color.
is a very weird one because it's technically just still a Game Boy, kind of. They did obviously make Game Boy Color exclusive games, but for the most part, it's just still the Game Boy.
It's kind of like the 3DS and the 2DS.
Sure. Do we want to count it? It does have a launch lineup, but it's not good.
I mean, we could count it.
All right. The Game Boy Color launched on November 19th, 1998 in North America, launching with 4 games. Centipede, Game & Watch Gallery 2, Pocket Bomberman, and Tetris DX.
Oh yeah, that is a really bad lineup.
Yep.
Oof. Um. Hmm.
I mean, you get a Tetris again.
You do get a Tetris.
Bomberman's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the quality of that game, though, but, like, a Bomberman seems fine, but this is not good.
No.
I mean, again, you have to kind of think of it as like it was kind of they were already thinking like, oh, you have games already that you can just play and put in here. It's not like we were launching new, like all your old games aren't going to work or anything. All those are backwards compatible. So I guess that's kind of probably why they were like, we don't really need that big of a launch lineup
Right.
per se. But if we are ranking these on the strength of their lineups, this is not good.
No.
This might be our at the bottom of the list.
I think it's the bottom of the list. It's just not a good lineup. It's not strong.
Yeah. The Nintendo GameCube.
The GameCube.
Launched on November 18th, 2001.
Okay.
In North America, it launched with the following games: All-Star Baseball 2002, Batman Vengeance, Crazy Taxi, Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2, Disney's Tarzan Untamed, Luigi's Mansion, Madden NFL 2002, NHL Hits 2002, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, Super Monkey Ball, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and Wave Race Blue Storm.
Luigi's Mansion.
That's not a bad lineup.
No, it's a really good lineup.
Like that obviously has, a lot of third-party stuff in it, like Crazy Taxi. This is like, Sega really getting into third-party stuff now. So you have Crazy Taxi. I think the Dave Mirra games were fine. Madden 02 was good. Luigi's Mansion, obviously.
Great game. Great game.
You got a Star Wars game to, build off that pedigree from the N64 stuff. Monkey Ball. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is probably the best game in this lineup. An iconic video game.
Luigi's Mansion's right there.
Look, Tony Hawk 3 is a much better game than Luigi's Mansion.
Agree to disagree, my friend.
But this is a good lineup.
That is a very good lineup.
Where does it slot in our list, though? Obviously, it's going to the top, near the top, I should say. Not necessarily to the top, but
Because my question is like, does the strength of the lineup outweigh like something that's extremely iconic?
Right.
Because like the N64 has Mario 64, but that's basically there's 2 games. This one has a lot of really iconic games. It's like a really strong lineup. So what wins?
I think if you look at the grand scope of things, like, again, you can get a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 on an Xbox or a PS2.
You can.
If you look at it like that, Luigi's Mansion is probably the one thing here that really props it up.
So in that case, I would probably put it under the Xbox.
I might put it above the Xbox because I think the strength of the third-party stuff is very strong.
Okay.
It just doesn't have like that big first party exclusive game that these other three have that is just like bam, right in your face.
That's why I was thinking Xbox would go above it is because of Halo.
Ooh, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on that, honestly. We're going to slot it in under the Xbox.
Okay.
Halo is good.
Halo is good.
The Super Nintendo Entertainment System came out on August 23rd, 1991 in North America, launching with 3 games.
3.
F-Zero.
Okay.
Pilot Wings.
Okay.
And the pack-in title of Super Mario World.
Oh.
This is a pretty good launch lineup, even with just 3 games.
Yeah.
Like, these are 3, like, kind of iconic Super Nintendo games.
I love how we just keep getting Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings just never goes away, apparently.
I don't think I've ever played a Pilot Wings.
I think I've played Super Nintendo Pilot Wings at one point, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I understand, like, people do enjoy it. F-Zero is F-Zero.
Right.
Like, one of the first games you got to see Mode 7 really work in and everything. And then Super Mario World is, one of the greatest games ever made, so.
Correct. So I'm trying to think of how to word this.
Mm-hmm.
My instinct is either 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think when you look at it like that, like, the Game Boy has a big game in Tetris and also Super Mario Land. N64 is 64. Xbox has Halo.
Mm-hmm.
This has, I think, 2 games you could definitely obviously say are, like, pillars of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And Pilot Wings itself is also not, like, something I would say is, like, bad or anything. It's not, like, holding it back that much either.
Right.
So, again, like, I think this goes up against, like, do you look at the variety that the NES had, and also it had its own strengths as well, of course, but you have to compare that with the strength of this lineup, even with the lesser amount of games.
Right.
Which is a hard decision for sure, of course.
I mean, this is how I'm going to word it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You could hand me the entire NES launch lineup at the moment, and you could hand me the entire SNES launch lineup, and I'm going to play World every time.
Honestly, I was kind of going the same way as, like, you look at both of those lineups and you're like, what do I want to play out of those? It's Super Mario World 10 times out of 10.
Yep. Every single time I'm going to be like, yeah, it's Super Mario World. Like, not that the rest of the games are bad, but, like, that is legit one of the best games of all time. So it's kind of hard to beat that.
Yeah.
And again, like, it was a very different and, like, innovative game.
Mm-hmm.
Also introduced our boy Yoshi. He's our boy.
Cape.
Well, Cape was in 3.
Well, it's a different kind of cape. This is like a cape.
There's still capes.
You're a cape.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Well, there we go. We're going to skip over the Virtual Boy.
Yeah, it's smart.
And go on to the Nintendo Wii.
Okay, Wii Sports.
Yep, that's on here, of course. The Wii launched in North America on November 19th, 2006.
Twilight Princess.
It launched with Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Whoa.
Call of Duty 3, Cars, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Excite Truck, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, GT Pro Series, Happy Feet, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Madden NFL 07, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Monster 4x4 World Circuit, Need for Speed Carbon, Rampage Total Destruction, Rayman Raving Rabbids, Red Steel, SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, and of course the pack-in title of Wii Sports. A lot of stuff here, obviously.
A lot of stuff.
Not necessarily a lot of good stuff though, because some of this third-party stuff is not good. Marvel Ultimate Alliance is good. I know a lot of people like the Budokai Tenkaichi games. Call Call of Duty 3 is a fine game, but I don't know about the Wii version of it. Because again, this is where you're starting to get into versions of like, oh, the Wii versions of these games are going to be different.
Yes.
Because they have to implement motion controls and all that. Red Steel, was a showcase of the motion controls and all that, as was Wii Sports and Twilight Princess.
Mm-hmm.
Twilight Princess and Wii Sports probably doing that the best out of all of these because they were
yes.
Nintendo games.
Yes.
Those are probably the two best games on this list that, you can't find elsewhere or anything like that.
Well, you can find Twilight Princess elsewhere.
Well, at the time, you couldn't find them elsewhere. Like, you couldn't find it on a PlayStation or an Xbox, I mean.
Right, yes. And I mean, like, those are easily the best games on the list.
Yeah, Wii Sports is a very good game, but again,
very good.
I don't think this is a good launch lineup.
I mean,
it has like a couple of good games in it, but there's a lot of stuff around it that's just kind of crap. And some shovelware.
Yeah. But I mean, Wii Sports and Twilight Princess.
They are good, yes.
Those are really strong titles.
But I don't think they're that strong to really prop up the Wii.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, like, Twilight Princess is good, but it's not like one of the most revered Zelda games. And
I mean, I would put it over GameCube personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, I don't think it goes any higher than that, but
no.
Those two
I think
games
that yeah, I think you could definitely say that.
No, I wasn't going to argue for it any higher than that.
No, that's fair. And then we get not the Virtual Console, not the WiiWare, the Wii U.
The Wii.
Oh boy.
Our boy, the Wii U.
It launched on November 18th, 2012 in North America with the following launch lineup.
Oh boy.
Assassin's Creed 3, Batman Arkham City Armored Edition, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Darksiders 2, Disney Epic Mickey The Power of 2, ESPN Sports Connection, FIFA Soccer 13, Funky Barn, Game Party Champions, Just Dance 4, Mass Effect 3 Special Edition, NBA 2K13, New Super Mario Bros. U, the pack-in title of Nintendo Land, Rabbids Land, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, Scribblenauts Unlimited, Sing Party, Tank Tank Tank, Transformers Prime the Game, Warriors Orochi 3 Hyper, Wipeout 3, Your Shape Fitness Evolved 2013, and Zombie U.
This launch lineup sucks.
Yeah, it's a lot of games, obviously, that are getting ported to the Wii U.
But not good ports.
No, it's all, you could play better versions of these games elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The only things that are really notable here as, like, things that were kind of exclusive to the Wii U for a time. New Super Mario Bros. U, which, again, not a big fan of the new Super Mario Bros. Series.
Womp womp.
Nintendo Land, I remember being kind of okay.
It was fine.
Yeah. And then Zombie U, I think, was something that kind of became a cult classic until they eventually ported it elsewhere. But, for the time, it was like one of those things that was just on the Wii U, and you're like, oh, okay, this is all right. Yeah. Everything else, though,
they're real rough.
Not great. What do you think about Under the 360?
Yeah, I think that's a solid place for it, honestly.
All right.
Oof.
Not the Wii U eShop, of course. Next, we have the Nintendo Switch, which launched on March 3rd, 2017. It features the following games: 1-2 Switch, Fast RMX, Frontier Days Founding Pioneers, I Am Setsuna, Just Dance 2017, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Othello, Shovel Knight, Snipper Clips Cut It Out Together, Super Bomberman R, Voez, and Vroom in the Night Sky. A lot of heavy lifting here by Breath of the Wild.
A lot of heavy lifting by Breath of the Wild, but, like, my God, is that a good video game?
Yes. Is there anything else on here that you're like, this really stands out?
No.
Outside of Breath of the Wild. All right. So, What about between the Game Boy and the N64?
Yes.
Because I think, Breath of the Wild is a very, very, very good video game.
Very good.
But again, not a whole lot else outside of that. We're going to skip the N-Gage, of course. Skip
Yes.
the 32X and the Sega CD and head to the Sega Dreamcast.
No, not the Sega CD. Goodbye, Sega CD.
The Dreamcast, of course, launched in North America on 9/9/99, September 9th,
Perfect.
1999, with the following launch lineup: Blue Stinger, Cart Flag to Flag, The House of the Dead 2, Hydro Thunder, Millennium Soldier Expendable, Monaco Grand Prix, Mortal Kombat Gold, NFL 2K, NFL Blitz 2000, Pen Pen Triathlon, Power Stone, Ready to Rumble Boxing, Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, TNN Motorsports Hardcore Heat, Tokyo Extreme Racer, and Trick Style. I think this is a very solid launch lineup.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you got things like this is the first NFL 2K game, which would go on to be, before EA would purchase the rights to the NFL games, like a big contender in the home football game market. Power Stone, the first Ready to Rumble Boxing, Sonic Adventure, and Soul Calibur. Like those are 5 pretty solid games to launch your console with, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty banger.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do you think any of these are iconic games, though? Like Soul Calibur is really, really good.
Really good.
Sonic
Is it iconic?
Adventure,
It's no Sonic Adventure 2.
I mean, I think, I might argue you put this above the Wii.
I would agree with that.
The Sega Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast, which I have my Dreamcast calendar.
Yes, what is September's month?
Let's find out. Live. Ugh.
Live and in living color.
Virtua Fighter.
All right, that's solid.
That's legit.
Do we want to put the Game Gear on here?
I don't have like a lot in terms of Game Gear.
Yeah.
Like a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Head empty.
Yeah. Kind of the same way, so. Let's move on to the Sega Genesis.
Okay.
This launched on August 14th, 1989. And it came with these games: Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, Altered Beast, Ghouls and Ghosts, Last Battle, Space Harrier 2, Thunder Force 2, and of course, Tommy Lasorda Baseball. An interesting launch lineup.
It's an interesting launch lineup.
I mean, Altered Beast is a video game that people know.
They know it, but
Rise
is it good?
from your grave.
Rise from your grave.
It's not a good game.
It's not a
Space
good
Harrier is,
game.
of course, Welcome to the Fantasy Zone, but this is the sequel.
Yep.
Thunder Force 2 is a video game. A lot of these games you probably have played in Yakuza games or in the bajillion Genesis collections that they put out. I don't think this is that good of a launch lineup.
No, I would agree with you.
Where should we put it? Like, I don't think it's as bad as some of these other ones, but it's not necessarily good. Maybe above the Wii U.
Okay.
Sega Genesis. Well, things aren't going to get better for Sega here as we go to the Master System.
Woo!
The Master System launched with 2 games.
Dose.
In June of 1986, it launched with Hang On and Safari Hunt.
Ooh.
Hang On, of course, an iconic Sega arcade game. You had the motorcycle you get to ride on, but this is the console port.
The console version.
Which is not probably good. And then Safari Hunt is just a game that uses the light phaser. Which I think was it's a light gun, yeah. That's all it launched with.
Rough.
This might be the worst one yet.
I would personally say that's the worst one.
Yeah.
That is rough.
The Sega Saturn, again, another misstep, let's say, for Sega. It launched very abruptly in North America on May 11th, 1995, with the following 3 games, which honestly is not a bad lineup of games: Daytona USA,
Nice.
Panzer Dragoon,
Nice.
and Virtua Fighter. Now, I
Nice.
believe this version of Virtua Fighter they had to resend out to people because there was something broken in it, maybe?
Well, that sounds not good.
Or they just did another version of it like pretty soon after. One of those kinds of deals, I think. Oh, they just, basically, if you got the pack in, you had an opportunity to register your version, and you would get this version for free. This like
Huh.
upgraded version of Virtua Fighter. As much as you like to, or not, I'm not saying as much as you like to bag on, as much as people like to rag on the Sega Saturn, this is not a bad lineup. Like, Daytona USA is great. This is
Yep.
the arcade, well, close to the arcade version of Virtua Fighter, which, you know, obviously people would not have been able to play at home at the time because the only Virtua Fighter ports at that time was the Genesis port, which
Mhm.
was like the 2D version. Panzer Dragoon is a, you know, well lauded game in its own right. So, like, this is not terrible. You would definitely expect for it to be the Saturn, the weird way they launched this console in North America, that like the lineup would be bad, but like these are 3 pretty good games.
Yeah.
Now, okay, here's what I'm gonna suggest here.
Okay.
What if it goes between the Wii and the GameCube?
Okay, so that's the general vicinity of where I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking. So we're on the same
Brainwave.
brain wave here.
Okay, that's interesting. Would not have
Yeah.
expected that.
No, same.
All right. Welcome to Sony time.
Sony.
The Sony PlayStation. They, of course, launched this a little bit after the Sega Saturn on September 9th, 1995 in North America. It launched with Battle Arena Toshinden, ESPN Extreme Games, Kill League, The DNA Imperative, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, Power Serve 3D Tennis, The Raiden Project, Rayman, Ridge Racer, Street Fighter the Movie, and Total Eclipse Turbo, excuse me. Not necessarily a great lineup, I would say. Like,
Nope.
obviously, you get a Rayman, you get a Ridge Racer. At the launch, people liked Battle Arena Toshinden because it was like, wow, look at this game compared to the Saturn. It's way better. But I don't think people like would regard that game in the same vein nowadays.
Right.
It's kind of just whatever.
Pretty mid.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's terrible like some things we've seen, but it's just not like gonna blow you away.
Mid.
Yeah. What if we put this above the Genesis?
Okay.
All right. Oops. Can't spell. Well, of course, they came back with their second version, the PlayStation 2, on October 26, 2000. And we're like, hey, what if we make a little bit of a better launch lineup this time?
Not hard.
No. The PlayStation 2 launched with Armored Core 2, Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore, Dynasty Warriors 2, ESPN International Track and Field, ESPN X Games Snowboarding, Eternal Ring, Evergrace, Vantavision, Gun Griffin Blaze, Kessen, Madden NFL 2001, Midnight Club, MotoGP, NHL 2001, Orphan, Cue Ball Billiards Mastered, Ready to Rumble Boxing Ground 2, Ridge Racer 5, Silent Scope, Smuggler's Run, SSX, Street Fighter EX3, Summoner, Swing Away Golf, Tekken Tag Tournament, Time Splitters, Unreal Tournament, Wild Wild Racing, and X Squad. That's a much better lineup.
That's a much better lineup.
Yeah. Tekken Tag was a very iconic launch game for the PS2. Time Splitters has become a widely regarded franchise. Unreal Tournament's great. The first SSX. I think Smuggler's Run was the Rockstar game. Yeah. Madden 01 is decent. You get a Dynasty Warriors, which I know is obviously points in your book.
Yes. Although 3 is better too.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of problems with this. I mean, it's a lot of games, but there are some pretty good stuff. There's some good stuff in here. What if we put this under the GameCube?
I think that's valid.
Okay. 2. And then, of course, after that, they were like, hey, what about a PlayStation 3?
You want a third one?
Which, of course, launched on November 17, 2006. Launching with the following games: Call of Duty 3, Genji Days of the Blade, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Mobile Suit Gundam Crossfire, NBA 07, NBA 2K7, Need for Speed Carbon, NHL 2K7, Resistance Fall of Man, Ridge Racer 7, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 07, Tony Hawk's Project 8, and Untold Legends Dark Kingdom. I think things have fallen down to earth for the Sonys here.
Yeah. We had a decent showing in the last one, and then we got here.
Yeah, I mean, again, Marvel Ultimate Alliance is a good game. Resistance was meant to be their Halo killer and just never was.
It died.
Sports games, again, when launching on this console period, weren't that great. Call of Duty 3 is, again, before Call of Duty would eventually just blow up. Project 8 is not a good Tony Hawk game. Yeah, this is not a great launch lineup.
It is not.
No. Let's see where this puts it on the list, though. Like, there's nothing in it that stands out, really. But would you say this is better than the PlayStation 1 launch lineup? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe better than the... Do you think it's better than the 360? I think they both kind of have the similar issue in terms of like their launch lineups.
Yeah.
They're kind of just the same.
So yeah, they're about equal.
Yeah.
I might put this one over the 360.
Sure.
But not by much.
Yeah. Like as close of a tie as you could probably have.
Yeah. If we were given ties, it would be a tie. But we're not given ties.
Well, after that, they were like, what if we made a fourth one?
You want a fourth PlayStation?
The PlayStation 4, of course, launching on November 15th, 2013. And it launched with a lot of video games. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Battlefield 4, Blacklight Retribution, Call of Duty Ghosts, Contrast, DC Universe Online, Dive Kick, Escape Plan, FIFA 14, Flow, Flower, Injustice Gods Among Us, Just Dance 2014, Killzone Shadowfall, Knack. I mean, that automatically puts it to the top of the list, of course.
No.
Lego Marvel Superheroes, Madden NFL 25, Minecraft, NBA 2K14, NBA Live 14, Need for Speed Rivals, Pinball Arcade, Playroom, which is just its pack-in thing, Putty Squad, Resogun, Skylander Swap Force, Sound Shapes, Super Motherload, Switch Galaxy Ultra, Tiny Brains, Warframe, and War Thunder. Again, I think it has just a similar problem that the Xbox One launch has.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing.
It's a lot of the same stuff and a lot of stuff that you can get elsewhere. And then the exclusive stuff is like Killzone, Playroom, which again was just like kind of a tech demo thing. Not Resogun, not a whole lot of stuff that you're like, wow, gee, I need a PlayStation 4 for this stuff. I'm gonna go look at the Xbox Series X and X lineup again real quick just to see, or the Xbox One, excuse me. Hmm. I mean, if I was looking at both of these lineups back to back and was like, wow, if I had to pick one of these lineups to play the games on that console, specifically the exclusive games, because everything else is basically the same, so it's kind of just negates all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably play the Xbox, honestly, over the PlayStation 4's exclusive stuff. Because basically it just comes down to I would probably play Forza over this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that basically puts it under the Xbox One, maybe even under the Game Boy Advance.
I'd probably put it under the GBA.
Okay. PlayStation 4. And then
They
they were
gave
like,
us lots of games, but they didn't give us many.
yes. And
That
then they were like,
good.
what if we make a fifth one?
You want a fifth PlayStation?
The PlayStation 5, which launched on November 12th, 2020 in North America, launching with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Astro's Playroom as the pack-in, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Demon's Souls, Destiny 2, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Fortnite, Godfall, Maneater, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, NBA 2K21, Observer System Redux, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and Watch Dogs Legion. I would say this is a better lineup than the Xbox Series X and S. Very
absolutely,
easily.
yes. Very easily.
Astro's Playroom is fantastic.
It's so good.
And especially for a packing game. That is a very good game.
Very good.
You got the remake of Demon's Souls. You have the remaster of Spider-Man, which is a good game. You have the Miles Morales game, which is very good in and of itself. Like, some very solid stuff here for the PS5, honestly.
Points off for Maneater.
Well, yes. How do we feel about slotting this in between the Xbox and the Dreamcast?
Okay, I was thinking between Dreamcast and Wii, so we're not too far off.
I mean, the Dreamcast definitely has, I think, more solid titles, but the PS5 has like less, but I think they're better games overall.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, Astro's Playroom alone is pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
And
All
then
right.
when I got a PS5, I played Root Film.
I mean, as you do, of course.
It's my launch game.
You got to really test the hardware of it with
You know,
Root Film.
you gotta put it through its I don't know. I
Through
can't
its
word
paces.
today. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
of
can't
course.
word today.
Well, that they ran out of numbers, so eventually they were like, "What if we made a handheld?"
Yeah.
The PlayStation Portable, which launched on March 24th, 2005.
The ps, ps.
The psst. It came out with quite a few games like Ape Escape on the Loose, Darkstalkers Chronicle of the Chaos Tower, Dynasty Warriors, Gretzky NHL, Luminous, Metal Gear Acid, NBA, Need for Speed Underground Rivals, NFL Street 2 Unleashed, Ridge Racer, Spider-Man 2, Tiger Woods PGA Tour, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix, Twisted Metal Head-On, Untold Legends, Brotherhood of the Blade, Wipeout Pure, and World Tour Soccer. That is
The
your
problem with
PSP launch lineup.
The problem with the ps, ps is that like a lot of these games are like not as good as like what you would get on a regular console,
Right.
which is understandable. I mean, it's a handheld. Same kind of thing as like, 3DS and a
Right,
GBA and
right.
all that. Um, but I personally there wasn't a whole lot for me when the PSP first came out. I was just like, whatever. I didn't get one until Crisis Core.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think with this launch lineup, you have two games that really stand out,
okay, hit
which
me.
is Luminous and
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Acid.
Mm-hmm.
Luminous is obviously, is the puzzle game that a lot of people really enjoyed, especially, as a portable puzzle game. Metal Gear Acid being the weird take on Metal Gear by making it into a card game
Ah,
that somehow made it work.
that's
Um,
weird.
Everything else is kind of just, like you said,
There?
there, and either that or just like a port of another game. or of a console game going down to the handheld. But I think, despite all that, this is a better launch lineup than the DS or the 3DS had.
Oh, absolutely, yes. 100%.
So I might slide this in above the DS, under the PlayStation 4.
I think that is a solid location for it.
And then after that, they were like, what if we put out, the greatest handheld console of all time, the PlayStation Vita?
Vita never die.
It came out on February 22nd, 2012 in North America, launching with the following games: Army Corps of Hell, Asphalt Injection, Ben 10 Galactic Racing, Blaze Blue Continuum Shift Extend, Dynasty Warriors Next, F1 2011, FIFA Soccer, Hot Shots Golf World Invitational, Little Deviants, Luminous Electronic Symphony, Michael Jackson The Experience, Mod Nation Racers Road Trip, Ninja Gaiden Sigma Plus, Rayman Origins, Shinobido 2 Revenge of Zen, Touch My Katamari, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Uncharted Golden Abyss, Virtua Tennis 4 World Tour Edition, and Wipeout 2048. This is a bit of a step down.
Yep. Even though Touch My Katamari is a really good title in terms of like titling, it's not as good of a game as one would hope.
A lot of the stuff they put out here as like exclusive stuff for the Vita, I feel like kind of just existed, and people were just like, whatever.
This is not when the Vita hit its stride.
No, and I think the Vita really kind of comes into its own when like stuff like Persona 4 Golden comes out, and then it kind of just becomes a home to a lot of like your visual novel motif games, like the Danganronpas, the Zero Escapes. A lot of Otome games come out on this. It basically kind of becomes a precursor to what the Switch eventually becomes. So that's where I think it really hits its stride.
It's just not there here.
It's definitely just not here yet, and a lot of this is just where do we want to put it?
I'd probably put it around like the OG PlayStation or the Genesis, personally.
That's kind of where I was thinking.
Because we have brain cell that we share.
Yeah. So maybe in between those two?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And would you know it? That's all. That's everything.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
We did it.
We did it. We've ranked 27 console launch lineups here. We will go through them in order from the bottom up. Starting with our 27th console launch lineup, the Sega Master System. After that, the Nintendo Game Boy Color, the 3DS, the Wii U, the Sega Genesis, the PlayStation Vita, the PlayStation 1, the Xbox 360 at number 20, the PlayStation 3, the Nintendo DS, the PlayStation Portable, the PlayStation 4, the Game Boy Advance at 15, the Xbox One, the Xbox X and Series S, the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, the Saturn at 10, the Wii, the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, the Nintendo 64 at 5, the Switch, the Game Boy, the NES, and the Super Nintendo at number 1. Yeah, I think
congratulations, Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they knew what they were doing in the the mid 80s to mid 90s, and then also in 2017 as well. I think some of the things that are surprising on this is like, look at some of these consoles on here that are very well regarded and will go on to have incredible lifespans in terms of like the libraries and stuff. And like, the 3DS is down there near the very bottom. Mm-hmm. The PlayStation 1's down there at the bottom. The 360's at 20.
Mm-hmm.
The DS at 18. The PS4 at 16. And then like even like the PS2 at 12 is kind of surprising. But then you have stuff that is like, things that aren't necessarily as well regarded, but like their launch lineups are pretty good. Like the Sega Saturn at 10 is wild.
Wild. I didn't expect that, honestly.
No, even like the Xbox, I think, because like that doesn't necessarily have the greatest lineup going afterwards, but like you got Halo. You got Halo.
You got Halo.
Even the Dreamcast, I think, is like it's pretty high up there considering like what you would expect of that. Yeah, I think this was a very interesting thing. Like you would probably, like I said, you would think going into this like, oh, you're gonna have the top 5 is probably gonna be up there pretty high. Like
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. But then like afterwards, like, oh, the PS2, the 360, the 3DS and DS, all that sort of stuff's gonna be up there, but just ain't it. Like these are consoles that just had pretty lackluster launch lineups for just a variety of reasons. Whether it was just like games weren't ready, they had to put it out sooner than later, or they just had to put it out as soon as they could, or some nature. Who knows exactly what all could have transpired to cause this, but yeah, it's very interesting. I think another thing to look at here is that like launch lineups aren't as unique as they once were maybe 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
that's something we really noticed here with the Series X and the Xbox One and PS4
I mean,
and
that really kind of started, I feel like, with the 360 and PS3.
yes, I agree.
And then basically going forward, those two consoles, like, it's just the same stuff, but you're going to have a little bit of an exclusive here and there. And that's kind of like that's one of the things you're going to be, deciding on when you look at buying one of those consoles. It's like, what exclusive would I want to play? And also like where are my friends going to be and all that sort of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of things just not as unique as they once were. And yeah, I feel like as well, kind of like in the mid 2000s, there was just a downward trend of just like launching a console with a banger.
Yeah.
That just doesn't necessarily happen that often anymore. Like Breath of the Wild is kind of an anomaly in that aspect, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our
Good
lineup.
game, though.
The Super Nintendo at number 1. Super Mario World's a fantastic game, one of the greatest video games ever created. So when you launch with that,
It's hard to beat it.
It's hard to beat it. And then you also have like F-Zero with you as well, coming in like on the back, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, what do you got? What else do you got, guys? Come on. But yeah, this was fun.
This was fun.
Definitely went ways I was not expecting. Like you said, that's just the way things go when we rank things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's gonna do it for us this week. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can follow us on Blue Sky at seasonalanimecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early. Our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast, which we just did an episode of last week. We watched The Goonies, which was Al's pick of the month. She finally got me to watch The Goonies, and you can listen to what we thought of the film on Patreon right now, along with some other films we've watched over the course of the year and throughout the existence of the Patreon. So sign up for that and you'll get access to all that fun stuff.
Yay.
Next week we will discuss something else probably.
Yeah. Probably.